repeats. Always on repeats. Right.
Hey, I trained her well through that mentorship.
That's
Contacting her at like 11 o'clock at night.
My phone would
Oh,
ring.
yeah?
My phone would ring and Morgan said, "They're sharing."
Okay. All right. 9:01. Perfect.
I'm Karen. Nice to meet you.
See
I was in here last week.
Has anybody else not met Sammy?
I haven't.
Okay.
Oh, no, I met Sammy last week.
Right.
But there was
Okay.
another lady that
She's
walked
old,
in
she
here,
can't remember.
but I didn't know.
Well, Sammy's here today. Spencer's here today. Katie is here
I know,
today.
but it was a
Joe was the Katie and Joe were going to
Yeah.
organize us
no,
today.
No, it was a tall lady with real skinny.
Oh, that's Becky's
that's
mom.
Becky's mom.
She's her assistant. Yeah.
I thought maybe she was a new agent or
Yeah.
something.
And then Katie Myers is here today. So if
I know,
you
yeah,
haven't had
she
a
was
chance
here
to
when
say hi to her, do that.
Susan can draw.
And Keith is here today.
I know, we love it when Keith's here.
Yeah. Who's going to the social tomorrow?
The Cross Keys,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm leaving, it's okay if I still come, right?
Of course. Of course. You'll have to pay for your food, but other than that.
I have my biggest sale ever before I leave. It's just a nice way to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a shame it's not 3% commission. Shame on Dick Clark, that's all.
Hey, that's still a nice commission.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. That'll help, redecorate
I'll pay for your
when you
mover.
get down there.
Yeah, my mover is $11,000.
So some people had asked about kids. It's going to be a buffet meal, and the buffet will be put out somewhere around 6:30ish. So if you have younger kids and you want to eat and leave,
So we
that's
can
okay.
bring our kids? I thought
Absolutely.
And I was like, you guys stay home with the
I
kids.
saw-
Well, if you want to stick to that story, we won't tell you. If you want a night out by yourself.
Yeah, he might find out though, and I'll be in trouble. So.
No. Yeah, families are welcome.
I
Okay.
signed your kids up.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't
You
remember.
said you were coming, so I signed all 4 of you.
Okay. Cool.
Good.
No big deal. Thank you.
Kathy's bringing her kid too. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. If you, Aaron from Movement Mortgage talked about a product yesterday that is just specific to Harrisonburg. But if you're selling folks in Harrisonburg and they are lower income folks, the Housing Authority has a plan where they can qualify for $10,000 in down payment assistance, which is a 1.5% loan that they do have to pay back, and $4,000 in closing cost assistance that is just free money they never have to pay back. So I think family of 4, the income limit's somewhere in the low 50,000s. So if you're working with those kind of folks in Harrisonburg, it's a great, great, great program. So
Do you think that'll come to Stanton?
it is specific to the Harrisonburg Redevelopment Authority. So Harrisonburg money is what's funding this. So it would be up to the city.
Do we even have?
Does Stanton have something like
Yeah,
that for Waynesboro?
Yeah,
we
we
have
have Housing Authority in Stanton.
Yeah.
It's my dad and him.
Oh.
Waynesboro has a housing department,
Okay.
or housing authority, but I don't know about Steve.
When you were in lending, did you ever run into that where they would kick in money?
Yeah, I did.
So we should, yeah, see if Summer can check with them. So the NAR convention was in San Francisco. It just ended. And the big talk of the convention and the big buzz going in was going to be this. NAR had proposed a policy on coming soon listings, basically. We'll wait for you.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how to ignore them. Here, I'm sorry.
Judy's not going to be the same.
Right.
She's not going to be the same.
Jude, don't interrupt the meetings.
She'll watch on YouTube, but she can't interrupt that way. So what NAR's proposed policy, which came out about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, was this: that listings have to be put in the MLS within 24 hours of advertising to the public.
Oh, that's good, because
Okay.
the lady down the street never does that.
She's a jerk too.
She is a jerk too.
Who's going to police it?
Yeah.
So here's what happens. This was then at the national convention. The NAR has an MLS committee, just like all of the locals do, and that's an open meeting. That's one that I always love to go to. And this was apparently standing room only, people pouring out the door, and just like all of us do locally, this was brought up, it was voted on, and it passed. So when that happens at the national level, it automatically becomes part of our MLS rules and regs on the local level. It's nothing we get the chance to adopt or talk about or change. It just is. And if we want to stay with NAR, we have to comply with that.
I don't think that's.
So,
I bet it is. Fish candy.
so that's what it'll be enforced locally. It'll be part of the MLS rules and regs. So no more coming soons. No more private little MLSs. I don't know that it happened here. Well, actually, it did happen in Harrisonburg, and we all had to kind of bail out and let it shut down. But an agent in Harrisonburg started a Facebook page called the Friendly Realtors Facebook page or something like that. And people would share coming soon listings and also all kinds of other questions. Hey, I need somebody's phone number, just all kinds of real estate stuff. But it got to be a place where, hey, I've got this listing coming up in a week. Let me know if showings are going to be starting on such and such a day. Well, since those listings were in the MLS at that point, but were only being marketed to this smaller group that this one agent who was the administrator of the page had let in, that really violates the spirit of the MLS. And what was happening in some other markets where luxury agents would get together and do this and say, we don't want, these regular agents who just sell townhouses messing with our luxury listings because they're going to blow the deal. So I'm only going to market my stuff to folks that average $1 million or more in sales. And they would form these little private clubs and share listings with each other, but not the whole MLS. So this rule gets rid of all of that stuff. I think it's supposed to take place or take effect the first of the year, unless your MLS needs some kind of technical leeway, and then they give them another few months. But is anybody on the MLS committee here for GAR? You are? Okay, so you guys will talk about it. I'm sure your board will talk about it. You'll have to maybe make the change to the regs.
So when we have that little board up there where we have coming soon, we have to erase that?
Nope, all of that is fine in-house.
Okay.
Okay, we want our buyers to have first shot at our listings. It's all keyed on advertising to the public. So it's not the listing date. You can sign the listing agreement, have your MLS exclusion, or get your pictures done and all of that. But you can't put a sign in the yard, and you can't put it on social media.
So we can't share it on our Klein May page.
Klein May page is fine. Klein May announcements. Anything that's internal within the brokerage, we're all the same. We can share. Those clients are clients of the firm.
Okay.
So we can share that, but we can't market to the public or selected other realtors.
Okay, so this is the case where I called GAR and reported this girl.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I'm a witch, but she had the sign out there on a Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and it never hit MLS. Was it Monday afternoon? And I called her. She said, Betty said it was okay, not a problem. That would be a problem now, right? That sign's out there Thursday. That thing better be in MLS Friday afternoon.
Within 24 hours.
And actually, our regs right now say
Yeah,
72
I was
hours
just
to
gonna ask.
sign, being in the yard, and it has
Right.
to be entered.
Ours
in
are the
MLS.
same. Well, I think ours says within 72 hours of the listing agreement being signed.
Right.
But we have an MLS exclusion form that we can use to get pictures done or staging or whatever. Yeah. So that'll be something that's kind of universal. I think I see it as a good thing. I think most folks around here would see it as a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when we put that rule in HRAR? It was because of one agent. It was called the Larry Martin rule. Larry's a really nice guy. He owned the Remax in Harrisonburg at the time, and he would put signs out, and leave them out of the MLS until they went under contract. Very, very
I don't think he's ever looked at the MLS though.
Probably not. Yeah.
Is he
Very,
still-
very old school.
Is he still in business?
He is, yeah.
Is there any kind of rule against not like from changing it from for sale to under contract when it actually does go under contract, or like to?
That should be in your rules and regs as well. HRAR is 24 hours.
And the MLS are on the sign.
In the MLS.
Yeah,
Or have
Yeah.
to sign?
Well, it's supposed to go, when you have a ratified contract, you're supposed to mark it pending. But there's some people that are still waiting to get through the home inspection
Can't do
before
that.
they're marking.
Yeah, that makes me
Right.
mad.
Yeah.
Which is a problem on two fronts. One, your MLS rules say you can't do that.
Right.
And two, you're presenting to the public on all of these websites that are MLS feeds that this thing is active when it's not.
I got really upset with the Harrisonburg agent that did that with my clients, and we were 3 weeks in, and I just looked it up just to see something, on the listing, and it still showed active, and I asked her about it. She said, I don't mark it pending until we get through home inspection. And I was like, well, that's crap because, you know, we got into it. But anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to
Are your rules the
know
same?
who that is, because that's definitely
I'll
not
tell
what we
you who
do.
it is.
See, that's
Our
what
rules,
I'm
are-
saying.
HRAR is 24 hours, and certainly our
She
company
was
policy
hanging
is,
outside that
you
whole
know,
time.
you gotta present, you gotta, if it's pending, you gotta mark it as
I
pending.
always thought it was when you got the, commitment letters when it went under pending.
Nope.
No.
When you have a ratified contract.
Yeah.
See, the same agent at Long and Foster does the same exact thing. She waits till after the home inspection.
Well, that was something that the GAR board said was okay for a while,
Yeah.
and then they changed their opinion. But for a while, it seemed like every listing had in internal remarks under contract, but waiting for
Yeah.
contingencies to be removed.
Yeah.
But it was still showing active.
Some of the people get by with, you know, we can't get by with anything, and they get by with all this crap.
Turn 'em in,
Yes,
Mhm.
we understood that from you.
Yes, we're kind
I'm-
of self-policing.
Back to my question about like changing it, like it's for sale, you have the listing, you're a listing agent, it goes under contract. Like you change the sign to under contract at what point?
If you want to.
Okay, cause I've left it for sale
Mhm.
for a while until we got through home inspection. But I've always changed it in MLS,
Mhm.
so
I don't think I ever put under contract on my signs just because if something falls through,
I know, I feel
Mhm.
like, I tell my sellers, like, this is bad juju, I don't know, I don't like to put that.
Right.
Because one of them was just riding me about it, and I was like, can we just get through home inspection and then I'll change it?
Right.
So,
Do what I did, I
Just to
just
make
took my
sure.
sign off, out, took it out, brought it back in here.
When you went under contract.
I wanted everybody to guess.
It's your best advertising.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that-
Putting that under
In fact,
contract, and
keep
if the
that
new
under
buyers will let you
contract.
put a sold, or a couple days before closing, you go out and when you're sure it's all done, put a sold there.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
if you're
great.
under contract or sold, it's
Yeah.
great advertising. It shows you're doing a good job, you're getting it moved, and they're
Yeah.
happy.
right.
So,
That's
stuff
funny.
my sign game.
Yeah.
I took a few pictures of myself with the,
Right.
Yeah, it's good.
Right.
under contract, so,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't forget I bought a Steadicam. Y'all want to use
Yes,
it?
I gotta get it.
Oh, maybe Spencer.
Where is it?
Uplight's here today.
What is it?
It's still in the plastic.
So the Steadicam is a mount for your iPhone camera, your phone, to take video, but it has a gimbal in it, so when you're moving and shaking, it stays nice and steady, and you can walk around. And if you've had 8 cups of coffee, you know you've seen these realtor videos. Hi, I'm from my new open house, and it takes all of that away. It makes it look like a professional video.
It's made for me.
I mean, they're everywhere. Right. But everybody does that. There's one little extra step makes you look way better than everybody else. Yeah.
Well, do your hair
Everybody
too.
else.
That's the only way I'm this girl around.
Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago. You know, think about your lighting, think about the setting, think about what you're wearing. Don't make it look off the cuff. So a few weeks ago in Harrisonburg, we had Affiliates Day, which is a day full of CE and then a little mini trade show. And Laura Farley from RVR Attorney came up and did 3 really good classes. And this legal updates class had a couple things about the POA Act that I think are worth reviewing, and one that really, she had a personal story that really surprised everybody. So first thing, I get this question at least once a week. Who's included in the POA Act? How do you know if you have to give that disclosure? What are the triggers?
It's in the contract.
Well, it's in the contract, but the contract says if this subdivision falls under the POA Act. So what falls under the POA Act?
Anything that has a POA?
Nope.
No?
There's 2 things. One has to be residential, and the second is they have to have the ability to impose fees. It's the money that really, the association managing other people's money that drives a lot of this. And that's what our buyers should be looking at. There are, and we really don't think of this, at least I usually don't think of this, that just like in the Residential Property Disclosure Act, there are a bunch of exemptions basically for sellers who don't have any real knowledge about the house because it's a foreclosure or it's an estate or something like that. Same deal applies to the POA Act, which I think for your seller's benefit maybe you should be aware of, because in some cases they don't need to provide that expensive package. We get this question a lot too. Can I order the packet when I get the listing? Yes. And as long as it's less than a year old, all you need to do is ask if there's been an update to the financials, and if there has, you have to pay whatever their little fee is to get the updated financials. But chances are, unless you're crossing over the end of the year or wherever their fiscal year is when they update their financials, there's not going to be any changes. So you can have that on hand and ready as soon as you get ratified, give it to the buyers, and get that out of the way.
I was gonna say for the Spring Lakes book, that's like $50 for that big fat notebook. I got one from Tim Armentrout if y'all ever get a Spring Lakes
Mhm.
listing or.
$50 is all.
Yeah,
Wow.
But is that the whole reseller package though, or
it's the
just the?
whole,
That's an annual.
yeah.
Yeah, they still charge you to transfer it when you go to closing.
So the way a lot of these work now, the smaller associations have a third party that administers it, and there's a couple really, really big ones that do the vast majority of the work. And Virginia law says they can charge up to $250 for this, $100 for the inspection and $150 for the paperwork. And so that's exactly what they charge, even though it's all electronic and they just push a button and email it to the buyer. It costs $250.
So is there anything different between POA and HOA? It's just that it's, instead of homeowners association?
No, that's the
property
same thing.
owners, the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. So you don't have to wait till you have a contract to order it. You just need to check for an update. This is the one that really surprised everybody. What if it's a small association and you can't find somebody, and the only packet the owners have is the one that they got when they moved in, who knows how many years ago? Is that still valid? Even though it's not current.
I know the lender would have a problem with that.
Somebody still has to be collecting fees.
The lender doesn't check the HOA.
Yeah, they
packets,
do.
they?
We have to have,
Closing
the lender has to
company
have the HOA packet.
Really?
Yeah,
Nobody's asked me for it when I'm doing one.
because, I don't know, we've always had to have it,
Hmm.
sent to the underwriting department.
Never heard of that. So the answer, and Laura had a great story for this, is it only has to be accurate as of the day it was prepared. And the story she told was her parents live in a little 5 or 6 house little mini subdivision, and they have a POA. There hasn't been any fees charged, but their rules give them the ability to charge for fees if they need to do something for the common good. So they had to provide a packet, but there was nothing more recent than the one her parents had when they moved in 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what they gave the buyers. Yeah. Any other questions on the POA stuff? So this is something, you guys can tell me what the mood is like in Waynesboro and Stanton. Harrisonburg has had, this was the 8th year in a row, a bike walk summit, a little one-day mini conference where it's actually by invitation only, and they invite local decision makers and city council people and business people and folks in the biking community and the planning department and those kind of people, and then a couple outside speakers to talk about bike and pedestrian infrastructure in Harrisonburg. They're making a tremendous amount of progress right now with bike lanes, shared lanes, when new roads are being built, sidewalks or bike lanes are being mandated. They're talking in Harrisonburg, you have to put in sidewalks when you're doing a new subdivision. So the summit was really, really interesting. This is happening all over the world. Washington, D.C. is a real leader. If you like to visit there, you've noticed over the past 10 years or so a total change in the way people get around in that city. There's a bike share program where all over the city you can just use an app, check out a bike, ride to where you want to, put it back in the lock, and off you go. They're now mostly electronic assist bikes, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which makes them available to anybody. And so in DC, 5% of the commuters now commute by bike instead of cars. So if you can picture a huge traffic jam in DC, 1 out of 20 cars disappear, and is now a bike.
When I was up there for Alyssa's field trip last Monday, I saw a bike that had Uber on the side. I said, what is this?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I'm gonna real quick pull up some pictures for you.
It was like in a bike ride.
Yeah, you just rent. It's just a bike share. You rent it. Yeah.
I was like, what is this? I was like, I'll just go on. I'll find out later.
Those
Yeah, I
scooter
know.
things are popular in Harrisonburg with the college kids, right?
They are tremendously popular.
Oh, the things in UVA, but they leave them in the middle of the sidewalk. It's
Right.
crazy.
Right.
Get him, June.
Yeah.
So here's some pictures of DC,
Oh,
where you've
wow.
got bike lanes like that. People commuting. They have their own lanes, their own lights. Protected bike lanes, where you have these barriers that make it feel even more safe for folks.
Does it have a little?
It probably does. Some that are separated with just these flexible little.
I knew, but if you
Stands.
were right in front of a car, that would be dangerous.
Yeah, the lights are synced to work with it. The as you go around turns, the lane painting and everything makes sense.
Oh, okay.
It's just a whole separate traffic system, And if you
Gosh,
take
that was
it,
in the middle of the traffic there though.
yep, it's right here. Well, yeah. So I think where they put some of them, so they didn't have to expand the roads, is they took turning lanes.
Wow.
So you can't turn anymore.
You can't turn anymore. You can only turn
It's
right.
all one way.
It's like New Jersey. You can't make a left turn. It's illegal. And so when you take something like this then to an extreme, and you think about places in Europe where 80% of the people are commuting by bike and nobody's wearing a helmet because you don't need to, the whole transportation system is set up for bikes and not cars. It's
They've
just
never seen me ride a bike.
so some of that stuff is happening pretty close by. And so the question for a city, for Stanton or for Waynesboro or for Harrisonburg is, do we go ahead and build the infrastructure in the hopes that people will then get on their bikes? Or do we wait until we see that there's a need because there are a lot of people on bikes? The problem with that is now they're mixing with cars, and now you're kind of working back to get things
Have you ever
separated.
heard of a low-speed electrical vehicle?
Is that a golf cart?
Like a golf cart.
Well, it can be a golf cart, but then it can be these teeny tiny little things that are electrical that are enclosed.
Uh-huh.
But see, that would be good.
Well, and that leads right into this. Micro-mobility is what they're
Oh,
calling
thank
this
you.
new wave of transportation, which is vehicles under 1,000 pounds. And they're adaptive for weather. So out in the Northwest where it rains a lot, they have these little kind of clear eggshells
Yeah.
that over the bikes in the bike share program so people can commute without getting wet. Bike sharing is everywhere. And just a little side note, one of our agents after this talk yesterday handed me an article, hilarious article about car sharing that I'd never really thought about. So car sharing or short-term rentals of a car. You can rent a car for a half hour or an hour to get from one point in the city to another. Well, what people are using them for, there's a like 20% or I forget the number, fairly high percent aren't going anywhere. They're renting a car for an hour to eat lunch or take a nap or have a private phone conversation. They just get in the car in the parking lot, do their thing, and then leave an hour later, and it costs them $11. Two friends said they brought their roommates were too noisy and always eating their food. They wanted to watch this movie, so they shared the price of a rental for an hour, sat in the car, watched their movie on an iPad, and then went back to the room.
Are they blocking out the windows?
We didn't go there. I'm sure people are using it for that too.
Oh, yeah, you know what, Dale, we won't go
What?
So the scooters hit Harrisonburg by
PG-13.
surprise, and that was a big topic of conversation at this conference. And for Stanton and Waynesboro, might be something to think about getting ahead of. There were a lot of people that were upset with the city planners that there were no laws on the books about these scooters, and the scooter companies, Bird was one, I can't remember the other one. Their model is they look for college towns and then they research the laws, and if there are no laws prohibiting them from just coming in, that's what they do. So we woke up one morning and there were scooters all over Harrisonburg. And some people love them, some people don't like them. Some residents are upset because people would use them and dump them in their front yard and just walk away. So they now have some laws around that and what the scooter companies can and can't do. They are, I think, super popular for very short trips, so for college campuses and that kind of thing. I think they're seen as a really good alternative.
I have something interesting that I heard on the radio coming in. They are trying to put sidewalks in Verona, and there is a big county meeting about it tonight. So they're wanting to put sidewalks on Route 11 and 612. So
Right.
just so y'all know.
They should, because that, people walk that and it's dangerous.
Right. And so we think of the scooters and things sometimes as maybe recreation or college kids just getting to class without having to walk up the hill. For a lot of lower income people, this goes to how can I get to work? Because I can't afford a car. So putting in these infrastructures so people can walk safely on a sidewalk or bike or skateboard or scooter or whatever helps them, makes more jobs available to them.
Did you get to go to San Francisco?
I did not go.
Oh, you
I didn't
didn't?
go this year.
Well, I recommend that you get to go next year.
Okay, maybe we'll do that. It won't be in San Francisco though.
Oh,
But it's always someplace fun. It might be in New Orleans.
It's in,
Ooh.
yes, it is New Orleans. That's
I think we
right.
all should go.
Yeah.
Company trip, Keith.
Team building. He says, self-employed.
Sure. That's right. Yeah, you can make that decision for your company. So this is why this is happening. They've analyzed all this stuff, and for typical commuters, half of the trips that we make in our cars are less than 3 miles. 80% are under 10 miles. 95% of them are under 20 miles. And with electric assist bikes, that's a reasonable commute for some people, depending on the terrain. The best case, and where the experts see families going, especially in urban areas, and this already happens in bigger cities where it's a pain to park and to have a car, is that families might have one car to use for longer trips, but day-to-day stuff is done in something other than a car. So e-bikes are something that I'm extraordinarily excited about, just selfishly. There's definitely one in my future. These are, if you know a little bit about bikes, you can kind of tell by looking at them that there's something different. Usually either inside or just outside the down tube, the tube that goes from the handlebars to the pedals, you'll see something bigger, and that's a battery. And then there's a motor in the crank where you pedal, and they help transfer a whole lot more power than a person could do just with their legs. They're not like a motorcycle. It's not a grip the throttle and you're just riding like a scooter. They are pedal assist. So you have to be putting in some effort. And then you click a little button to say, I want a 50% boost or a 100% boost or a 200% boost or however much you want. You can go 23 miles an hour on flat surface with them if you have them at their maximum. So a 10-mile commute on a fairly flat terrain would be 15-20 minutes, and you're not sweaty, and you're out in fresh air. You're getting a little bit of exercise because you do have to be pedaling. They are, like I mentioned, as far as folks getting to work, the largest increase in usage that they see in this product segment is not mountain bikers having fun. It's people in the Black community in inner cities using them as a way to get to work, making a wider range of jobs available to them.
are you going to use one from Massanutten to?
Yeah. I have a friend who does it the other way. He works at Massanutten. He lives in Harrisonburg,
And he rides one
and
of
he
these?
bought an e-bike and he commutes that way.
Wow.
Right up the back on the gravel and then right into work.
So if you ever get a DUI and your license taken,
This is what, right. You don't have to do the mopeds anymore,
Well,
on
see, you know, I
scooters.
swear, that's why we're buying an electric.
Well,
That wasn't me. It was for Warren, because I don't let him drive a vehicle.
So if you think about this area, if you're doing anything going east to west, you're going up and down hills endlessly. And so it's a real challenge for somebody who's not an avid cyclist to be able to commute anywhere without getting out of breath or getting all sweaty. And this changes that completely. They put these motors in nice, comfortable, like beach cruiser kind of bikes. So you're sitting upright, you're comfy, and you're just pedaling along, zooming right up the hill. So they are, I think for our area especially, they could be a real game changer.
Is it kind of like a hybrid, like the more you pump your pedal and then it reserves and gives that battery energy,
No,
like
they
you
don't
said?
self-charge.
Oh, okay.
So you do have a limit, and then you have to recharge them.
You just plug it in?
Yeah. Yeah, you just plug them in. Just plug them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that we need, if you remember those pictures I was showing you, some of the bike lanes are just painted. Some have flexible barriers. Some have actual concrete barriers. It's those protected bike lanes. When you're talking about city planning and what do we need to do, that's what gets people who are not already cyclists onto bikes for commuting because they don't feel safe otherwise. Cities find that when they do this, they get a tremendous increase in folks commuting and kids commuting to school by bike and doing all kinds of good things like that. Is there any talk? Is that a thing in Stanton or Waynesboro? Do you see a lot of people on bikes?
I don't know where Bruce and I live, they put a bike lane in. Did you see that? But, oh my God, I would kill that person
I
probably.
think because it's not a college
Look both
town,
ways.
it's not nearly as.
Well, even in Stanton City,
Stanton
you
City's
have
too
to,
hilly.
Very hilly. Yeah, I mean,
And
with an e-bike, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
it's just not a lot of distance to travel there either, or any place to ride a bike. in
Right,
Stanton.
and, I mean, the only campuses are, I think it's so much more avid in Harrisonburg.
No, it is.
Harrisonburg has for the last 20 years had a really, really smart, positive bike advocacy
Right.
core. It's
Right.
one bike shop in the middle of town, and those guys are just fantastic, and they are nice guys, so they get along well with the city folks. They get along really well with the National Forest folks. They do the detail. They write the grant requests, and they have gotten. They're now a stakeholder in Harrisonburg, and they're really making changes.
I think we'll head that way. I think Stanton will probably long before
Yeah.
Waynesboro does. I think.
Well, Stanton brings in that big bikers thing in October
And it's historical.
where they
Visitors.
camp over on the school grounds
Mhm.
and they cycle out into like West Augusta
Right.
around.
Mhm.
I mean, they probably bring in.
Hundreds.
I mean, I think the one year it was like 700 or 800 bikers because I mean they were everywhere.
Right.
And I mean it's really good for that.
And James at Black Dog is doing a lot,
Yeah.
but he's.
They're moving next to the firehouse. They're renovating that building. Dave's carpet after all these years.
I don't know, we're going
Is that on the side where the lot that won't sell is?
Yeah, where the fire department's for sale? Yeah. Yeah, they're renovating that old carpet store.
Okay. So obviously very, very hard to do in a county. You know, adding bike lanes to country roads is really tough. But what the long-term plan in Harrisonburg and the goal is you can't add bike lanes to all the twisty, turny roads, but we could maybe parallel some of the major roads with a protected bike lane. So Route 33, for example, from Harrisonburg east to Elkton, the dream is that there would be some kind of bike lane protected or outside of 33 going along there. So that's where the county wants all the population growth to happen in the next 20 years. And all those people could get back and forth to town safely by bike. It's a few miles. On an e-bike, a 5-mile trip is nothing. You know? So these things are, and they're building these now. There are some mountain bikes and things just for recreation, but they're making more and more utility bikes where they have baskets front and back, much more of a European thing where you can run your errands and do your shopping and carry your computer and all kinds of stuff very practically. So, oops, wrong way. We have our Senior Santa thing going on. I appreciate those of you who have asked for a senior to buy for. We still have some tags left, so if you're interested in that, let me know.
You were gonna bring me a tag, did you do that?
I have them with me. Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about dues or any other GAR stuff going on?
Yeah. So sent everybody or placed their two
favorite
Cheers. Merry on Christmas. Yesterday, the installation lunch is Monday. For those who have not
Right.
signed up, I think the deadline is maybe today to sign up for that.
The 15th, everybody's gotta get their award stuff in too.
Yeah, the awards are due for those that have participated. Nominations for the Realtor of the Year, Community Service, Rookie, all that kind of stuff needs to be done.
I think rookie is Davis picked the rookie one.
It's based on.
You nominate people, or is it just, is it
I think
production
that's
based?
working. I think working is.
You gotta put in for it,
You gotta
but
put
it's
in
based
for
on points.
And then they look at who has the highest sales and
Oh, that's right, Dave.
who's participated in.
Is there an awards committee just decides?
Yes.
Based on who's nominated? Okay.
And we just had the YPN, function on, last Wednesday. And Old Dominion, Aaron and Shelby won the first place for the cornhole board tournament.
Uh-oh.
And then Alan Stamp and I got second place. We were first losers. And I have a silver corn cob trophy that I need to bring into the office. Yes.
Yeah.
Quite impressive.
Cool, Sherry.
Yeah, but YPN is fun, and we're doing our next event on November the 25th for volunteers. And I'm starting to learn more now that it's not so much for the 10 years and less, that we're just welcoming everybody. So don't feel like you can't come, just come and help us out. It's going to be for warm, and it's going to be at the hospital. I will send out an email, not the hospital, at one of the churches. I'll send out the, it's Fishersville Methodist, I think. Fishersville, it's right up the road. I'll get the correct name on it, but anyway, it's on the 25th from 5 to 8, and we're going to help the homeless get prepared to stay out of the cold for the week of Thanksgiving. So.
Okay.
That starts Monday, but they did one this week as an emergency thing. They announced at our church, yeah.
Yeah.
So could we do a drive or something for that?
Mhm.
Like a sock collection or something?
Yeah,
Socks
that
and
would be
scarves
smart.
for us.
Yeah, that would be smart. I like that idea.
Good idea.
Karen, have you checked with Disciples Kitchen? Do they need, remember last year we did hats?
Yeah, so that was the
Yeah.
other thing is
Yeah.
Highland is donating 75 tote bags for the gift bags they do. And then we're having drawstring bags made that will go for the kids. But they have other items she was gonna check that we can, may need to purchase to fill the bags. And the one thing that, Linda had said that day is if nothing else, if we brought books, that they could put those, and that's something they don't usually ever collect. So she's supposed to let me know by this Friday what they still need for that.
Like,
Nice.
like books for adults or books for kids?
Kids.
Kids.
Oh, I just gave away a ton.
Yeah.
So before we get to listings, I want to mention one thing that I should have mentioned earlier. The agenda, because it just kind of popped up based on a newspaper article I read yesterday morning before our meeting, which talked about redistricting of Rockingham County schools. So if you're showing folks in Rockingham County, you need to be aware that there was a proposal made a couple nights ago for the first time publicly. There's going to be a series of town hall meetings around the county where a pretty good amount of redistricting would happen. In the northwest part of the county, some things are going to be moved around, and there's a possibility one school in Valita may close, elementary school. The thing you guys will probably run into the most is South River, which is in Grottoes, has historically been in the Spotswood High School District, which a lot of people like because the wealthiest communities in Rockingham County feed into that high school. It is now going to be East Rock, which is Elkton. It affects a lot of kids, and is probably the one you would run into the most. So just be aware, if you're on the buyer side, be aware that that's a conversation you should be having with your buyers if they have school-age kids or are planning on that. If you're on the seller side, you don't really have to disclose it, but be ready for the questions.
I was gonna say, do you guys have at, I guess, Rockingham and Harrisonburg, a bus garage that we call, because that's what we do for Augusta County when you're uncertain about a school district.
Yeah, we do. They also have a great map online that I emailed to everybody yesterday, and it's a PDF, and you can blow it up to you're looking at, your which side of the street
Okay.
is on which district. That's the current map. I haven't found anything about the proposed changes.
They
So,
haven't really,
do you know
they haven't really
anything?
decided where they are at this point.
Are they really going to take input from these meetings and consider changing things, or is this more just to let folks know what's happening?
I think it's more just informational, and to see how much pushback they get, because they're actually talking about dropping the number of hours that kids go to school.
Really?
So, yeah, so the elementary would go from 8 until 2.
Mhm.
So that would drop by
That's
an
an
hour.
hour. Yeah.
And then going from the high school would go from 9 until.
Wow, okay.
Oh my
So-
gosh.
So Keith's wife Tammy is an elementary school principal, so he's got some inside scoop.
So, yeah, that's interestingly enough, bringing lots of kickback from all sides,
Mhm.
childcare.
Yeah, big impact
Yes,
on
definitely.
the family
That's
schedules.
staggered Stanton schools though, that way, so the elementaries are one time and then.
Really, they've done that already.
Mhm. Yeah,
Well, part of their problem up there is school buses. They can't find people to drive the school
That's
buses,
some
so,
of
Here
ours
so
too.
the, so the bus drivers can drive for both,
Mhm.
so.
Interesting. Okay, listings? Who's got listings they want to talk about?
I've got one coming that I was
Okay.
talking about, and I've got to go. That's why I'm dressed so
That's
warm. Turn the heat on there.
Now you've
I just thought you
acclimated
were
to
ready
it.
to come to the basement.
I know, because I'll be in there and it'll be cold. And then Jessica's supposed to come and stage it, but it is 417 North Augusta in Waynesboro. It is some people, you know where Bath Avenue is. It's the road off of that. So if you know where that area is, it is going to be listed for $135. It's 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, renovated. It was a foreclosure, and my client bought it and fixed it up. He did a great job on it. It's pretty nice. So if you got anybody 135, just let me know.
I have one coming, I don't know when, in Spring Lakes. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, very nice house, built 2002,
Mhm.
and we're going on at 369.9.
Good job.
Was there some debate over that?
Well, yeah,
bit.
I had a tough time on that one. I had a tough time on that
Is
one.
it built by Troy Rutherford?
No, he doesn't build over there.
Oh, good. Oh, that's right, Spring Lakes, that's right.
Yeah, I had the builder name, but I'm sorry.
Can you share the address?
It's 101 Woodvale Drive. But they're moving as we speak. She's moving as we speak, but she's gonna leave a few things for me to take care of. And I was there last night helping her pack,
Oh,
Oh my
man.
goodness.
and it's gonna be more than a few things. So.
Are you gonna sell them? We're gonna have a sale?
I think actually, one of my clients does this eBay thing, and she does the yard sale thing. So I'm gonna call her and see if she'll go in, because it's unbelievable. And she has a bonus room above the garage, and that's where we were last night, and there's just boxes everywhere. She found a high school graduation picture.
Wow.
She found this little rocket that her son had made. Oh, I have to take that. you know?
Right.
So anyway, it'll be a while. It'll be a while, I think. I don't know. I'm gonna go there after I leave here and see what's left.
Mm.
But it's a beautiful house, 9-foot ceilings and tray ceilings, and it's open. Nice master. It's a split bedroom.
It's single level?
Mhm.
Basement?
No basement. No 2-car garage.
Aren't you getting one in Storage Strap on Courtney Woods, or did you get that already?
I have that, and it's not going anywhere. I've got to call them. I don't know what they're gonna do. It's not going anywhere. They priced it too high.
Good job for you helping her. That's sweet of you.
That is,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's above and beyond.
Yep. Anybody else?
Things not related to that. Saturday, we are having an igloo making party for the float.
Ah.
Does Rick have, I don't know how many. I'll go.
We'll just go buy a whole bunch of milk and drink it all.
Yeah. Any jugs,
Oh, okay.
milk,
I forgot all about that.
Water.
We're going through
Water.
a lot of milk
yeah.
Yeah.
Where will
So-
that be, Karen?
We're gonna cover this table and construct down here. We're gonna make it so we can take it up the steps and then put
Yeah.
it together on the float, so it's not like the gingerbread house that's under a carpet, my dad's. Yeah,
What time is that gonna be?
probably 10. Yeah,
So which parades are we doing?
all three.
Okay.
I can't go. I'm still in the house. I'm still in the land all day.
Stanton will be
This is the
December
December 2nd.
2nd, that Monday night after Thanksgiving. That Saturday night will be Waynesboro, and then the 14th is Stir Strap. And then after the Stir Strap party, we're coming back here, parade, we're gonna come here and have our Christmas social, beer pong on the table, I think. You're invited. You're on my team.
Sounds like I'll need an Uber to get home though.
I already know you're good at it.
Just bring your little electric bike.
Yeah, right.
That isn't, biking while intoxicated is just as illegal as driving. You can't get a ticket for that.
But not riding horse. No,
Whatever.
Riding horse?
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be able to educate us.
There's a
I'm
guy,
such a
I
party
think in
animal.
Shenandoah, that rides his horse.
Gracious.
No lie. To the bar.
To the
I
bar.
think it's in Shenandoah. Yeah. Like the whole town knows. He rides his horse to the bar. Yep.
And, they called me from the lights in the park because I don't know where the application went, we didn't get one, so, she asked that we still do it. And I told her that, I didn't know that we would do it to the magnitude that we've done it the last couple of years, because it takes so much to fill that up. So, I told her we would use what we have and condense, so that'll be Saturday in a week. That'll have to go up in the park, because they'll like that, Thanksgiving night.
Okay.
Is our gingerbread house completely dismantled? Could we just park it in the middle of the? Plug it in?
I think when you go to take it apart, it's gonna fall apart. Cause see, it's not really jointed, cause it's got the poles and it's just,
Right.
yeah, it's
Okay.
not really a house.
I have a suggestion for us. I was talking to Summer about it yesterday, and I think we need more lights out there. For one, the light is flickering out at the
The light bulb needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I tried to do it last night and I couldn't figure out.
Yeah,
how
I
to do
tried.
that.
It's kind of spooky
Pretty
at night.
intelligent, but.
It is dark out there.
Well, I couldn't figure out how to get I tried to flip the glass out of it.
I think you have to unscrew this. Two screws on it.
I did contacts in last night.
How
and
many
I was-
realtors does it take? to
Right.
Change a light bulb. Yeah, I
From the
mean, it
lights
would
there.
give somebody a stroke, cause it's like.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost like
Do you have a
separating
light
out.
bulb?
When that's working, is there enough light or is it still
No,
sketchy?
it's sketchy out there
Okay.
at night. It's
Well, that's
dark.
the only light, is
Yeah.
the one
Porch
that's
light.
underneath
The porch light.
Is that something you and I can do, Carl, for the weekend?
We can.
That it's there?
Can we see if you all can figure it out?
You can. Yeah. You can reach it. I'll try to figure it out. But they're saying we might need to add a light somewhere out in the parking lot because.
Yeah,
not
even if
feeling
it's like a light post closer to the parking lot too, or
Mhm.
something,
Or
because
even just
it's dark.
to shove it in the ground with run a cord. It is spooky dark out
Okay.
there at night.
Cause
Okay.
Summer, she works late, and, I come in sometimes late at night
Well, this
too.
time of year it doesn't have to be too late.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I went out last night at 8:15 and
It's
no porch light or anything, and it's,
Do you all walk using your phones and walk to your
Yes.
car?
I started my car.
I just push the
Oh, there you
button
go.
real fast
Right.
and kind of run.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It's not like you're scared getting in the car, when you get in there, you're like.
Yeah, you're like.
Yeah, the boogeyman's out there.
Well, there's
Sure.
a lot of people
Backseat
that
before
walk
we get in.
through
Yeah,
here
we
too,
do.
use our.
We used to have a bar across the street from our office,
Yeah.
and when I first started this job, I worked really, really late on Monday nights, and I came out of there like midnight one night, and there were 3 drunks just sitting on our
Yeah.
front step, chatting away, very pleasant. They just want a place to hang out.
But there are times, I think twice I've looked outside and people have pulled in and are just using our parking lot.
Oh.
It's like,
It's no texting and driving and phone and
Make
stuff,
out,
so.
yeah.
I know, I pulled over at the Wilson parking lot yesterday.
yeah, I don't think that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But,
Especially if you back up here on the corner overhead.
Yeah, right.
This man's rocking will come and knock.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure they pulled all the way up here and sat in the dark corners.
Welcome to Augusta.
Yeah, very different style of meeting here.
We go there.
Which we love.
do. We go there.
All right. Anything else to share? All right. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
I gotta, we gotta go to the
Schedule a
pool
meeting.
house.
Yeah.
The pool house.